Good morning, everyone. The time is now 9:30. I will call the May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Mill Creek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Quick announcement: this meeting is being televised live online via Go Live at youtube.com. A quick link is available at millcreektownship.com/meetings, and we're being recorded by WQLN for viewing on Spectrum Channel 1024 and later on youtube.com with closed captioning. Members of the public may attend in person in the General Assembly Room. However, total occupancy is limited to 25 persons and masks are required. Persons who wish to offer testimony at any hearing or to offer comments during the public comment portion of the meeting but do not wish to attend in person must contact Township Secretary Cheryl Williams at 814-833-1111 or at her email address swilliams@millcreektownship.com no later than 24 hours before the scheduled meeting to make arrangements. Ms. Williams, has anyone contacted you about participating remotely today? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is public comment on our agenda other than development and rezoning applications. We do have 3 hearings on today's agenda for rezonings and the official map, but would anyone care to address any other agenda item at this point? Okay, hearing none. Next is approval of the minutes. Any questions or comments on our April 27th, 2021 minutes, gentlemen?
None here.
No. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is approval of the bills. Any questions or comments with this week's payment batch register?
No, sir.
No.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is bids and quotations. First is bid announcement and award for flood detention basin mowing, Planning and Development Department, or is that Public Works Department?
Public Works.
Mr. Snyder.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quotes were sought for the 2021 flood detention basin mowing and tree cutting from Manzi Services, Garrelocks, and Arangio Landscaping. Manzi Services was the only company to respond. Manzi Services has done this work in the past and has done a very good job. The cost of the mowing of the 8 FDVs for 2 times this summer is $19,800. This money would come out of 2 streets department accounts. The first account is number 44034, the tree removal account, $5,000. And account 44040, maintenance and repair, $14,800, leaving a balance of $12,000 in the tree removal account and $25,632.51 in the maintenance and repair account. It would be my recommendation to award this contract to Manzi Services for the cost of $19,800.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, is there a motion to approve the contract with Manzi Services for cost not to exceed $19,800?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is bid announcement and award for environmental assessment, Planning and Development Department.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen. Let's see. There was perform an environmental assessment of the area of Beaver Run to be cleaned by the township. 2 quotes were received. One was from Mark J. Corey and Associates for $2,500. The second one was from Urban Engineers for $1,675. And should a wetlands report be necessary, it would cost an additional $1,560 for Urban Engineers. It is the recommendation of the township engineer to award the contract to Urban Engineers.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would note that that the recommendation is for the environmental assessment. It does not at this point include the wetlands, just to make clear for the record.
Well, I guess that's the question then. So we're only approving the 1675 for an assessment. We have to rebid or go out for additional quotes for the wetlands report, or is that included in the original request for proposals?
Engineer Corey didn't issue a number for that. And I guess I would just, if you're going to approve, I would make it, the 1675 would be approved, and the 1560, I guess, approved contingent on that, needing the wetland report.
All right. Okay, is there a motion to award the contract to urban engineers for a lump sum of 1675 for the environmental assessment?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. The next item is pay estimate number 4, shoreline pump station project. Mr. Snyder?
Yes, this would be the last payment for the shoreline pump station upgrade. This would come out of account number 801. The amount budgeted for this is $102,080.79 minus the $25,277.95 for the pay estimate, would leave us a balance of $76,802.84. It would be my recommendation to pay this pay estimate.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Snyder, so I'm clear, the request doesn't really have a recommendation at the top. This is just to approve the amount of $25,277.95.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve pay estimate number 4?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the ECOG joint purchasing bid announcements and award.
Yes, this is for, there were 2 bids received by the COG for culvert pipes and concrete catch basins for a total of $23,259. The bidders were Chimung Supply and Green Distributors. The bids were exactly the same as their manufacturer, or they sell ADS. The recommendation would be to award it to Green Distributors as they are the closest for proximity. Although if there were issues receiving those materials, then Chimung Supply would be able to supply those. And then there was a 1 bid for catch basin and frame and bike grate risers, and the amount of, looks like there was 2 totals, $98,010 and $9,700. It would be the recommendation to award it to Waterford Precast as the sole bidder. Did I do that right? Yeah, I did that right.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Nope.
So this is to approve Green Distributors for our pipe and Waterford Precast for catch basins and risers, frames, and grates. All right, is there a motion to approve the recommendation from the township engineer?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the central oil system. Mr. Snyder?
Fleet Maintenance is seeking permission to purchase a central oil system for the garages. This would put a fluid system station at each mechanic's hours. Quotes were sought and only 1 company responded. Don Parker Sales, $24,029.46. Precision Pump, no quote, and Collins Equipment Company, no quote. The equipment quoted by Parker Sales is covered by the state NJPA contract, but the prices quoted were below those contracted prices. The oil system is in the fleet maintenance capital budget. $25,000 was budgeted. minus the $24,029.46, leaving a $970.54 reserve in the budget. It would be my recommendation to purchase the central oil system from Don Parker Sales for the cost of $24,029.46.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
All right, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the central oil system from Don Parker for cost not to exceed $24,029.46?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is a rolling jack. Mr. Snyder.
Fleet Maintenance is also seeking permission to purchase a rolling jack that would fit on the large four-post lift and garage too. The jack would be purchased from Gary's Automotive Equipment, LLC, under the CoStar's contract number 800306 for the cost of $8,620.29. The monies would come out of the lift column adapters reserve, which is $17,266.04, minus the $8,620.29 for the jack, which would leave $8,745.75 in the reserves. It would be my recommendation to purchase the rolling jack from Gary's Automotive Equipment, LLC, for the CoStar's price of $8,620.29.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the board? All right. With that, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the rolling jack from Gary's Automotive Equipment for a cost not to exceed $8,620.29?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is a parking lot light pole. Mr. Snyder.
Building Maintenance is seeking permission to purchase one light pole to be installed in the parking lot at the west end of the township parking area. The pole would be purchased from Weber Electric under the CoStar's contract number 00850119246 for the cost of $3,555. The monies will be taken out of the Mill Creek Golf and Learning Center roof repair reserves. The reserves are $4,509.79, minus the cost of the pole would leave $959.79 in reserves. All work will be done by township personnel in this installation.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, it's, the documents in front of me indicate it was $3,550. I think Mr. Snyder mistakenly said $3,555, just to clarify the record.
Thanks. Any questions or comments? I have a question for Mr. Zuchewski or Mr. Olet. I cannot recall the roof work for Mill Creek Golf and Learning Center. Has that been completed, and this is what's left over from that
Yes.
project?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
they've completed that.
All right. All right, well, is there a motion to essentially amend the capital budget to include this project, shifting the funds as noted in the recommendation, and to allocate $3,550 for this project and award the purchase to Weber Electric?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is security cameras. Mr. Snyder?
Yes, Building Maintenance is seeking permission to purchase 3 security cameras from the Wilkins Company Incorporated for the cost of $1,635. These cameras will be integrated into our current system and would pick up the back of the building and the west parking lot where the new light will be installed. These monies for the 3 cameras would come out of our rooftop air unit number 1 reserves. The reserves are $25,395, minus the cameras of $1,635, leaves a reserve balance of $23,760. All the installation and everything has been done on that rooftop unit.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, is there a motion to amend the capital budget to shift 1635 into a camera line item from the rooftop air unit line, and approve the purchase of 3 cameras from Wilkins Corporation for $1,635.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Mr. Duchesky, even though the request didn't include a capital budget amendment, please note that we are amending the capital budget and make those amendments accordingly, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item, generator for Conrad Road Station. Mr. Snyder.
Sewer Revenue is seeking permission to purchase a new generator for the Conrad Road Sewage Pump Station from Shadler Yesco under the CoStar's contract number 008-024 at the cost of $41,750. This would be replacing an existing generator that is in need of replacement and it does not meet our current electrical needs. The monies would come from the sewer revenue account number 801. The account in that revenue budget system for Conrad Station is $90,000 minus the $41,750 for the genset, leaves a reserve balance of $48,250. It would be my recommendation to purchase the generator from Shadler Yesco for the cost of $41,750.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, with that, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the generator from Shadler Yesco for the cost of $41,750?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Next is sewer pumps for Conrad Road Station. Mr. Snyder.
Yes, Sewer Revenue is seeking permission to purchase 2 sewer pumps from Miller Pump Supply under the CoStar's contract number 0000541212 for the cost of $46,258.90. This is part of the upgrade for the Conrad Station. There's a current balance of $48,250 minus the cost of the pumps of $46,258.90, leaves a balance of $1,991.10 in reserves in that account for the upgrade. It would be my recommendation to purchase the 2 sewer pumps from Miller Pump Supply at the cost of $46,258.90.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the 2 sewer pumps from Miller Pump Supply at the cost of $46,280.90? That's $258.90.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck?
Vote yes.
Mr. Roulette?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. The next item is the 2021 milling and paving bid announcement and award. We had a bid opening for the milling and paving project for 2021 on April 30th, 2021 at 3 p.m. 2 contractors submitted bids, Lindy Paving with a total bid of $2,558,586. Joseph McCormick Construction with a bid of $2,640,077. This was for 185,000 square yards of asphalt and associated curb ramp work that would need to be completed as part of this project. Is that correct, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. I believe it's the recommendation from Public Works Department to award the paving contract to Lindy Paving for $2,558,586. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the contract with Lindy Paving Incorporated for the 2021 paving project?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is approving of the 2021 paving program. Gentlemen, you have a list in front of you, and there's also a map on the board, and we will also be publishing the map and the list later this afternoon on our website for the 2021 paving program. We are anticipating, well, we will be paving 15 miles of road this year in Mill Creek Township, which is kind of a new high for us. which I think we're all very excited about. Fortunately, the bids came in a little lower than we anticipated, so we were able to stretch the dollars a little further this year. I think last year we did about 13 miles, so we're trying
Right.
to tack another 2 miles on this year. And again, that list is in front of us right now. That'll be published this afternoon on our website, or if anyone would care to look at the map or see the list before you leave today, happy to share it with you. Any questions or comments from the board?
If their road isn't on the list, can they call Dan's cell phone number?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we'll publish that with the list.
Yes, that's a great idea.
He is the liaison to streets.
Yeah, that's true. You know.
Just a thought.
Can't deny that.
All right, that is our motion to approve the 2021 Mill Creek paving program.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes?
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And next is a request from exclusion from land development from Mr. Suds Wash, 2227 West 38th Street, Mark Natemeyer, developer. Mr. Puz?
Yes, good morning. Developer Mark Natemeyer for Mr. Suds Wash is proposing a 480 square foot addition to the south of their building located at 2227 West 38th Street. The rear addition is 10 foot by 48 foot and will be replacing a 16 foot by 16 foot roof that's currently there. The township engineer recommends approval of the exclusion as there's no grading change, no access change, no anticipated additional traffic.
Mr. Puz, just for clarification, is this a notice to the board or is this an actual request for approval from the board?
This would be a request for approval.
Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the exclusion from land development request?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes?
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. All right, next item is public hearings on petitions requesting a change in zoning classification. First is NLA for Real Estate Holdings LLC for property located at Wilkins Road, now zoned R3 medium density residential, asking for the property to be classified as R4 high density residential. Mr. Shaw or Mr. Puz, is there anything you'd like to discuss before we open the public hearing?
I would like to read the recommendation of the Planning Commission if this is an appropriate time.
Yes, sir. One moment, ma'am. We'll,
I'm sorry, I didn't know the rules, so I didn't make arrangements to speak, but I would like to speak.
oh, yeah, everyone's got a chance to speak, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Puz.
Yes, thank you. At the regular meeting on April 6, 2021, the Planning Commission voted 6-1 to recommend denial of the proposed rezoning identified as tax parcel ID 33-40-130-1 and located on the east side of Wilkins Road from R3 medium density residential to R4 high density residential.
Thank you, Mr. Puz. All right, is the developer present to give a presentation or the property owner? If you please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Guy Uliano, and I represent NLA, Real Estate Holdings. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, supervisors. Good morning, the Mill Creek citizens and interested parties. We have a rezoning application request to move the Wilkins Road property from an R3 to an R4. And although this is a rezoning meeting, it's difficult for people to talk about rezoning when they don't have an idea of what your plans are, your concepts. They talk about stormwater, wildlife, and so it's an all-encompassing discussion. So we made the mistake at the Planning Commission meeting by not showing some of our exhibits, and today we would like to show that. At the Planning Commission meeting, Commissioners Skelly and Kubea suggested there should be some middle ground to some of the comments that were made by some of the neighbors, which at that time we were unaware of. And in order to understand this request for rezoning, we have a number of exhibits that we would like to share with the supervisors and the general public so that they can take a look at what we're trying to do prior to your vote. So, Matt, are you able to project those two on the screen? Or if not, I have documents here and handouts.
Okay.
If you would be so kind as to distribute those. There's 40 of them, so I think I have plenty for everybody, including the supervisors. And these are I think the supervisors, I'll just refer to, they're in the same order, but I just wanted to. Thank you, Matt. The first exhibit that we have here on the first page, it looks something like this. This is an approved land development plan dated July 2020 for the Orchard Mobile Home Park. This land development plan was already approved for this parcel. This is the current zoning as it exists today, R3. The land development, this land development plan is acceptable under this current zoning. Under the R3 zoning, 8.5 units per developable acre is allowed. For an example, if this Wilkins Road property is approximately 22 acres, and let's take out streets and your stormwater and those types of things, if you come up with 10 developable acres, you could put 85 mobile homes on this parcel. This land development plan has 132 mobile homes on this parcel. This is what's approved, and this is what someone can do with this parcel of land without having to come to this meeting. This is how it is presently zoned. The traffic concerns, the stormwater, the wildlife, all of this has been vetted and approved through previous supervisors, none of these gentlemen, of course, but the traffic, etc. This approved land development plan for mobile homes can be built without any rezoning hearing. In other words, if you don't mind having a mobile home park in Mill Creek, this is what the current zoning allows. And if that's what everybody's appetite is for this parcel of land, then this is what it's currently zoned as. The airport authority purchased this land from this developer, and they had existing mobile homes on this parcel. And these existing mobile homes are right here on this row right there and up here. So they're requesting, I think, 93 new spots, 63 single, and 30 new double wides with the existing 39 that they have. It's a total of 132 mobile homes. Given the fact that you have 2 parking spaces per mobile home, take the 132 and double, it's 264. That was already approved. The stormwater's already approved. The traffic's already approved. I'm telling you, this is what is existing right now today. All right? Now, let's switch to the next page. Oh, sorry, Matt.
That's all right.
This is a concept plan that we have come up with, and we have made modifications to this based on some of the comments. And at the Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Scully and Cabea believed that there was some middle ground here. And so we have tried to take some of the comments from the neighborhood and improve and better this plan. First of all, the characteristic of R4. And R4 is called high density. So the first thing I'm saying is, what are you asking to put more than 132 units on there for? R4 requires 7 units per developable acre. If we take the 22 acres, we put roads, and we have 10 acres of developable land, you can put 85 mobile homes on there, or you could put 70 townhomes on there. It's a reduction. R3 has a higher density than R4. So by leaving this the way it is, you have the highest density possible. We are taking it from 8.5 units per developable acre to 7. It's an 18.5% decrease. It's 18.5% less traffic, it's 18.5% less parking spaces, it's 18.5% less everything. On this plan, we have incorporated in the back southerly portion of the property, untouched, undisturbed, and naturally preserved area. This back southerly portion of the parcel will be preserved in its current state. There will be no changes whatsoever. We heard that the wildlife lives in this area from the neighbors, and we wanted to keep an area that was untouched. This also acts as a buffer for the railroad tracks on the southern portion. It also serves the Wilkins Road neighbors living on the corner of Woodside and Wilkins. Right down here, there's 2 homes, 1934 and 1932, that if they look directly across the street, they will find no change, because this area is going to remain the same. Once again, we heard from the residents they didn't want to look at a high-rise apartment. So it was our fault for not showing more of a concept plan during the Planning Commission meeting. This concept plan also includes an open and recreational space that will encompass walking trails, picnicking areas, soccer nets, frisbees, baseballs, footballs. This area is right here in the middle. It's the green area right in the middle of the plan. This open space, this recreational space, is approximately 2.4 acres. It may grow because this is a concept plan. We have not done stormwater. We have not done land development plans, so this is as close as we can get at this time. This open and recreational space will benefit the neighbors living at 1826 and 1832 Wilkins Road, as their view directly across the street here will remain unchanged. As a matter of fact, this will be a well-groomed, cut, mowed, weed-whacked area for recreational use, and it can be used by the Wilkins Road neighbors. It is welcome to not only the residents of this community, but anyone in the Wilkins Road areas. At the Planning Commission meeting, we heard the desire for an open recreational space. This concept plan allows for this and does not obligate the Wilkins Road neighbors to worry about cutting, mowing, paying taxes, or maintaining this, yet they have the enjoyment of this area if they choose. The other component of this plan is the one-story ranch duplexes that are on the east side of Wilkins Road. This will buffer approximately 7 to 8 homes on the west side of Wilkins Road so that they won't have to look at high-rise townhomes. At the Planning Commission meeting, we heard neighbors that did not want to look at these or have people stare down into their existing homes. These one-story ranch-style units are lower in height. They'll blend in with the existing family homes and modular homes already in place with Wilkins Road community. The duplexes will be 1 story and will have approximately 2,000 square feet on each side. That doesn't include the garage. At approximately $100 a square foot, each one of these duplexes will be a $400,000 structure. The rents for these units will be $1,300 to $1,400 a month. And once again, all the landscaping, maintaining will be for the entire area as well as these duplexes. Still talking about these duplexes that are sitting on the east side of Wilkins. In R4, there's a requirement to set these homes 50 feet back from Wilkins Road. In R3, there's a requirement to set them back 30 feet. We believe that this 50-foot setback with these duplexes will not only buffer the Wilkins Road people from looking at townhomes, but it will provide an aesthetically pleasing yard with ornamental trees, bushes, and shrubs. Now, if we want to contrast that to the mobile home plan that we just looked at, the land development plan, there's a 30-foot setback. And that plan calls for a 16-foot by 60-foot mobile home parallel to Wilkins Road. These neighbors are going to see the side of a mobile home that's 60 feet long. That's the current zoning. That was what it was bought from the airport authority, and nobody ever changed it. That's what we're looking at right now. The other thing I'd like to show is in the packets, there's a document that shows some examples of some duplexes. None of these duplexes are going to be looking like they came off of a copy machine and they're exactly identical. They'll have different colors, they'll have different shapes. Some will have 2-car garage, some will have 1-car garage. It's just a sample, it's not an all-inclusive list. It's something that you can just use as an idea. Once again, these are concept plans, but we wanted to show them to you because it's hard to talk about what we were thinking about without showing you this. Now, the townhomes on the east side of the property. These townhomes on the east side of the property, there's 6 units per building. They'll have different looks, colors, and highlights. There'll be scattered ornamental trees, bushes, and aesthetically pleasing landscape to the eye. Samples of these different colors can be seen at the Garvey Lane Townhomes at 4341 West 26th Street. And after hearing some comments at the Planning Commission meeting, neighbors once again didn't want to see these people on the decks staring down at their existing homes, which no one blames them. And they also didn't want to just be looking at mobile homes or townhomes. So what we've done is we pushed the townhomes as far away from Wilkins Road as possible that is buffered by the 1-story ranch duplexes that will literally make it invisible from Wilkins Road. The townhomes too have been designed perpendicular to Wilkins Road so that nobody's sitting on the back looking down in anyone's existing structures. So once again, we tried to take these comments and incorporate them into the plan. These townhomes will be approximately 1,300 to 1,600 square feet of living space. There'll be 2- and 3-bedroom units. They'll range from $1,100 to $1,200 per month. There is no Section 8, there is no unsubsidized housing, and the tenants have a credit score of 700 above, and they'll have to have a clean nationwide background check. The tenants will be all young professionals with good incomes and jobs. In summary, it is our belief that this multi-million-dollar development will also support Embrace Mill Creek Report by stimulating investment into a targeted areas identified in that report. We believe this stimulus will also incentivize Mill Creek as well as the developer to work on improving the potholes and the roads on Wilkins, Garlock Drive, which has a light, Clifford, Woodside, and all of them. We believe this development will show awareness and coming to this community and will require more resources from Mill Creek Township. The rezoning request today is simple. It's R3, 8.5 units per acre, per developable acre, to a less dense R4, 7 units per developable acre. It's an 18% reduction. This means less stormwater to design, less land to disturb, less wildlife to displace, etc. It is the hope that Mill Creek supervisors will reduce the density of this parcel by moving the zoning from R3 to R4, simultaneously prohibiting a mobile home park from being built in Mill Creek. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, first, any questions or comments from the board before we open up for public comments?
No.
Nothing so far.
Mr. Yolano, I have a question for you.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm looking at your diagram, and I see 2.4 acres. Just for clarification, is that 2.4 acres, is that this kind of green area plus the wooded area, or is that 2.4 just the green area?
That 2.4 acres is just the open recreational green space.
Okay.
The space that will remain untouched, undeserved in the southerly portion, I think is about 2.5 acres,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So about 5 acres of land here. Okay. Now, are you, when you say it's going to be open to the public, are you saying that on like a land development plan, there's going to be an easement present? I guess what's the
This-
assurances that the public is going to have access to those areas?
Well, we're building this open space. Some of the comments from the Planning Commission, they like this open space over
Right.
there. And it's good to take walks on, throw footballs, you can run around there. It's a huge open and flat area.
Right.
So we decided, since we have to have open green space, and I believe it's 15% of your developable acres. So as we
Right.
get these numbers to shrink more or finalized,
Yeah.
then we'll come up with a firm amount. But we're gonna have a lot of green and open space, as well as this undisturbed area.
Oh, right,
That
right.
we want to have, and if somebody from the Wilkins Road community, even roads back in there all the way to Milford, if they want to come out and use those soccer nets, they're more than welcome.
Sure. Well, I guess
If we have to put that in writing somehow, we would do just
well,
that.
that's what I'm asking, because
We would do that.
per the zoning, that recreation space is required for the residents on that parcel. Not,
Yes.
It doesn't automatically open up to the public without permissions from the property owner. So I'm not sure what means we would have to have, whether that's something on the land development plan or an agreement or.
Well, I would suggest that we have to, go through a number of plans to submit to Mill Creek and have their engineers verify and things. And it's at the right point, we want to make sure that the legal people get there and make sure that our commitment and what we say here today is in fact what they're able to do.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, well, with that, we will open up for public comment. Now, folks, I attended the first planning commission hearing on this issue, and it was a very lively affair. We tend to have a little more of an orderly public hearing process here at the township for the board of supervisors. There will be a 5-minute limit on comments, and please refrain from making comments from your seat. Please wait your turn, make comments at the podium, and please sign in at the podium and give us your name and address before you make your comments. And we promise everyone will get a chance to have their turn, but if we could please be orderly and one at a time at the podium. Whoever would like to go first, please feel free to step up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Barbara Lamb. I live at 1810 Woodside Drive in, I've lived in this area my entire life. I was born in 1950, so you can do the math. And all this area that they're talking about was at one time a developed area of homes. The airport came along and purchased all of this land. And the reasoning they gave us at the time was because they needed a drop zone. They needed a space where if a plane was in peril, they had a clear place to crash or land or have something like that. I don't know if the rules for the FAA has changed, but I'm not sure why they're allowed to sell off this property. So that's my first question, is where is the drop zone for a crash landing? My second question is, how much property, he's only talking about a Wilkins Road at the end of the trailer courts that are already there. How much land has he purchased, or the development company purchased? From my knowledge, it's been all the way up to Asbury Road. I'd like to know how much he's talking about, how much, if we allow this to happen, will they continue to develop the whole airport field all the way to Asbury? That has me concerned, and I'm not happy with that. My third thing that I was worrying about is the fact that the traffic and that kind of thing, if this expands, what holds this company to what he has described here? If we change the zoning, will there be to an R4? I'm not familiar with what that means, so is he allowed to do high rises, like 4 stories high, or something like that? There's a limit on the neighbor's knowledge of what can be done going forward and what they would be held accountable to. And that, I think, is where most of our concerns are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can address some of those.
Okay.
High rises in that area would not be permitted.
Ever?
Not for an R4 district. We only allow high rises that are adjacent to state highways in Mill Creek Township. So the fact that that road is not adjacent to a state highway, a high rise wouldn't be permitted there. So I believe the highest, is that correct, Mr. Puz? Am I misspeaking
Yep.
there?
Yes, that is correct.
So the highest they can go is what, a 2-story or 3-story building there? Is that what it is?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
2
So that-
stories.
What's that?
You said 2 stories?
I believe I can't recall off the top of my head if it's 2 or 3, Matt.
I believe the maximum height is 35. It does increase for a high rise, but like you said, that the high rises would not be permitted there.
So 35 feet is the height. What else? As far as the land being rezoned right now, if you look at the board to your left, there's a dark outline around specific parcel we're talking about. That's the only area that's currently being purchased and being requested for rezoning. That is correct, Mr. Giuliano?
Okay.
Just that area.
Okay,
And how
then,
far does that go? I'm not real good with maps.
that's from the railroad tracks
Mhm.
north to the current mobile home park property.
So it's just to the end of which would be the beginning of Brookside or Westwood, I mean? Westwood?
I believe so, yes.
So the land goes as far from Wilkins to Westwood?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that answers that question.
What else? Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir.
There's a question, and I know you addressed this at the Planning Commission, but would you mind stepping to the podium and briefly explaining what the restrictions were at the time on that property? I know you explained they had changed now. If you wouldn't mind.
You want me to sit down?
If you wouldn't mind, ma'am. Thank you. So the question was, why is it the airport acquired the property initially, and how is the airport permitted to sell it for development at this point? If you could briefly.
Derek Martin, Erie Airport, 4411 West 12th Street. To answer the question that was posed, the property was acquired, I believe, in late 1998 for noise mitigation because the aircraft at the time were noisier, and then there was also a planned runway extension. The airport actually purchased 70 acres of land, not the 22 that are being for sale. So of the 70 acres, 22 acres are being sold for this proposed development. The question with regards to the lady just posed about the other property is not for sale. It's consistent with the airport's noise land reuse plan. This is a plan that was created by urban engineers in 2009 in this community with the FAA. It was submitted to the FAA, was approved, and it lists about 4 properties that are available for sale for this noise reuse plan. Did that answer your question?
Well, I guess the other thing that was mentioned is there's a belief that part of the reason that was purchased was some kind of a crash zone. Is that inaccurate?
No, that's not.
Okay.
The land was purchased for noise.
For noise.
Any crash has to be on the approach to the airport, and all that has been acquired. So on the east side, the golf course that used to be 18 holes is now 9 holes. Those sort of things were done. All the noise currently at the airport is within the fence boundaries of the airport. There
Okay.
are no noise outside the 65, what's called the DNL limits that the federal government sets outside our fence.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. One follow-up?
Can I ask him a question?
Sure, I don't want this to turn into an inquisition, Mr. Martin.
You said that the crash zone is only the fenced in of the airport field. That's where you have it fenced in is the designated crash zone, along with what's over on Powell Avenue, correct?
We don't refer to it as a crash zone. We refer to it as an approach. It's the approach, takeoff, and landing of the aircraft.
Okay, so anything that's not in that fence is yours to be able to sell off?
No, that's not correct.
Okay,
So the only property, and this document shows it, that we can sell is the 22 acres that is proposed. The other 50-plus acres are not for sale and cannot be sold.
and cannot be sold.
No.
And those go from what road to what road?
I'm not exactly sure of the roads. All I know is on that Wilkins Road property were 70 acres that goes towards the fence line. And some of that property is also wetlands mitigation. It cannot be sold.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Appreciate it. Whoever else would like to speak, please feel free to step up to the podium. And again, if you could please state your name and address, we'd appreciate it. And also sign in, please. Sorry.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Binney, and I live on Wilkins Road. I'd like to address the board. I don't understand why we are here when the Planning Commission made a recommendation 6-1. But we are here today, and I'm in hopes that the 3 of you are our guardian angels over in our area and see this from our point.
Ms. Binney, can I clarify real quick? You said you're not sure why we're here. The Planning Commission makes a recommendation, so every rezoning request gets 2 public hearings, one at the planning commission and one at the board meeting. So we don't just automatically approve planning commission requests or planning commission recommendations. There's always 2 opportunities for the public to speak, one to the planning commission and one to the board. Just so you know, this is a routine meeting.
I've spoke to a few of the planning commissions, and they kind of wonder, you know, they put all this time into their decision, and then they see it overrode. So, it is what it is. Okay. I did want to make a point. I'm not sure you did not mention it, but I delivered a petition yesterday. I dropped it off in time that, you would be able to look over it and verify the names and the addresses. These are taxpayers that live adjacent to this property. Could I have you read that for me?
Sure. I mean, I can enter into the record a petition against the rezoning of the property located at Wilkins Road, now zoned R3 medium density residential, requested change to R4 high density residential. We, the undersigned owners of property affected by the requested zoning change described above, do hereby protest any change in zoning. Petition summary and background. The proposed rezoning, according to those signed, is not consistent with the Mill Creek Municipality's comprehensive plan. High-density residential is inconsistent with the surrounding properties, is inappropriate and detrimental to the adjoining residential area. The proposed rezoning would not be small-scale development meant to infill and use land. This is a huge parcel capable of large-scale development, an area inappropriate for the neighborhood and would overwhelm the school district, also cause more environmental issues in this already stressed area. Rezoning of said property to high-density residential goes against the approved Erie International Airport FAA approved master plan. Rezoning to high density is inappropriate and considered incompatible land use in the direct vicinity of the airport because of health and safety concerns. We understand our concerned citizens who urge Mill Creek Township Supervisors to act now and vote against the rezoning. So again, these are all comments, I assume from you, not necessarily verified by the airport or the township.
Correct, correct. Could I have you move this out of the way?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you want to move the easel?
No, I'm just going to stick this up here so you can get a kind of a look at this. This is just a little map that I did for you as a visual. This here is the airport property, and this is the subject property, and these are the homeowners that are along the subject property. There's many other of them that I could have marked on there, but those are the ones that are right adjacent to this land. And there's almost 80% of the homeowners are saying no to this development. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And I know you said to keep it down to 5 minutes, but I'm going to try my best. I want you guys to have this so that you have something to
Thank you.
reference.
Thank you.
Stay with me on the pages. I can explain them to you. The first, which we brought up, is the Mill Creek Comprehension Plan. I know that this is not a plan that you have to utilize and it's concrete, but your vision in this approved comprehension plan has all of the high-density units going along major corridors. They don't have any of them marked on these private residential roads. So this plan that you guys are supposed to look at and have a vision for is not being followed if this gets approved. It states under high-density residential that, or even the corridor has the high density. If you look, it's all on main roads. Along with that, I wanted to bring up the school district. This development will devastate Mill Creek School District. They are at max right now. I work for the district. I know, I've talked to them, and this will cause a financial burden. Our taxes are already going up 1.8 as soon as they finalize that. The tax dollars that come from these type of homes isn't enough to put these kids through school. On the next page, I am referencing the master plan of the airport.
Ms. Binney, your time is up. We'll grant you 2 more minutes.
I bet that many of these. Thank you. Under the master plan, it speaks in regards to the highlighted part where I have airport lands available for development. This is a study. This is what is in the plan on what those parcels that the airport owns are to be marketed for. They had a company called CoStar Realty do these studies, and on the next page, it explains that when they do these studies, they do them and they ask for the highest and best use analysis on what these properties can be marketed for. And not one comment in any of that master plan said that this property can be sold for any type of residential. If you go to the next page, it says Development Area 1. The Development Area 1 is this piece of property. And it gets a little confusing because it's a misprint. It says it's on the east side of the airport, but it's actually on the west side of the airport. But the highest and best use that they've come up was utility, solar, agriculture, or mixed agriculture and office. The next visuals I have for you shows the different alternatives that you can use. There's the alternative 3. It can be sold, marketed as 43 acres, which would be all of that in pink, which would be for agriculture or solar. And then there's the next page, which is alternative 1. Again, it says solar. The next page that I have there refers to the other development areas that are on the other side and around the rest of the airport. Not one of those are to be sold for residential use. They have agricultural, industrial, but you don't see anywhere that this master plan says anything about residential, and that's because when they develop this, it's following the FAA guidelines. The FAA says that can't be sold for residential, and to be threatened by the developer to say that there would be mobile homes going in there, he is so wrong. You should see a map like this. This is the map that is in that master plan. And too many of them are going by this map, and this map shows that the sound level doesn't leave basically the runway. But this is a projected map for 2036. This is not what's going on today. This is not the way it is. And that is, if all of the other things are being done around the airport, then this is what the picture will look like. But it doesn't today. The following map is what is on record at the FAA for the sound. And what they've explained to me is, I've asked for another sound study, and the FAA says they don't put out new sound studies because they base it on the one that was done in the 90s. They don't need another one, but they need to follow what this was in the 90s. I want you to know that that land that is incorporated in that, when this study was done, this land was all orchard forest trees. And look at how it affected these residents who are still waiting to have their houses sound insulated. Again, this was all forested tree when they did that sound study. Now, the next page is the environmental picture of what goes on around the airport. And I'm very passionate about this because for years I've been very concerned with the amount of retention ponds and water and geese and the hawks that just swirl around in the sky after a rain. This map that's in the master plan shows no retention ponds, no water laying anywhere along by that airport, except for the creeks and the little wetlands. The next page I have for you is what I pulled off of Google Maps, and I highlighted to you all the water that lays adjacent to this property. All along this here have been retention ponds and more water, and the geese and the amount of wildlife is against every FAA regulation. And no one's following it. I understand you don't have to follow it, but the airport does.
Ms. Binney, this isn't an airport expansion
I
project.
agree with you.
It's a rezoning request, so you're losing me on the relevance of those comments. It's a rezoning request for a residential development, not expansion
Exactly.
of airport services. So
And John, is this property owned by the airport still, or is it already purchased?
I believe it's a purchase agreement pending, it's
Contingent.
contingent on rezoning, I believe,
Okay.
yes.
So it does. I thought that the property owner has to request for the zoning change, but
No, if there's a purchase agreement, the purchasing entity can do that as well.
contingent upon, okay. The airport has met with us and has told us that they have to sell it. And I agree, when land is purchased with the government money, they need to remarket it if it's not going to be used for anything around the airport. We were told many years ago that this was going to be our sound buffer, and this airport director decided that that's not true. But in the next papers that I've included in there, there's a huge manual to this. But it states in there that it can be converted to our noise buffer. And there's also a comment on there that any of the when they acquired that property and they removed those mobile homes, and the FAA paid for that land, and they paid for every one of those homeowners to be moved into a house, they can put it back on the market, but they can't put it back on the market for any type of residential. And I do have also with me a sample of the FAA restrictions that are required to go on record when that land is sold. And the restrictions spell right out: the property must not be used for residential purchases, which purposes include single-family, multifamily, mobile home development, or high density. Also, along with this, it also shows a sample of a letter that Mr. Martin should be able to show me that he has approval from the FAA to sell this. The only letter he's been able to show me is an old letter that states back to 2010, and that letter was sent out to every airport in the United States to ask them to start marketing the properties that were purchased under the noise abatement. only other thing I want to say is I have a copy from the FAA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Thank you.
This, it's not a letter, it's an email, and it's dated April 23rd, 2021. And I've been corresponding with the airport, and I received this email from Susan McDonald in Harrisburg, and she spells out to me, basically in this letter, that there is no way that the airport would attempt to sell this property for residential, let alone high density. Everything that I went over today, she is spelling out in this plan. That she references the pages in the master plan. She spells out what it can be sold for. After she says that it can be sold for agriculture, utility, solar, she said residential development was not considered an option. Because this land was purchased and funded with the FAA's money, they have to follow these assurances, or this airport's going to get closed. They threatened to close the airport when the mobile home park was going in.
Ms. Bennett, that's not what this letter says.
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
But there's no threat of closing the airport in this letter.
No, but it says that they have to follow the assurances. If they want to continue to have any funding, they have to follow those. And this is what happened back in 2001, not 2009, or 89, I think you said, 98. Property was purchased in 2001. And it says at the last comment,
Well, ma'am, I'm reading it. It says, furthermore, when an airport sells or otherwise transfers title to the property, the sponsor must certify to FAA that the property is adequately restricted to prevent incompatible development or use that might conflict with the airport operations. It doesn't say, it says residential use is improbable. It doesn't say that it's incompatible with airport operations.
it says, this is to ensure that the land will not be put in incompatible land use or conflict with the airport's use, operation, or development. For these reasons, it is improbable that the airport would attempt to market land
Sure.
for residential development.
Right, but I'm just clarifying that what you're summarizing this letter says it's a restriction, and it's not saying that. That's not what this letter says.
This letter says that if the airport is following the government, they wouldn't be marketing it for residential.
No, it says it's improbable. It doesn't say they can't. I'm just
Well,
clarifying for the
exactly.
audience that
She's
that's
almost
not
laughing at me.
that's not
She's
what
laughing
this.
at me, like, how could I be saying the airport is selling it for residential? They paid millions of dollars to
Well,
purchase that.
Ms. Bainey, I'm just clarifying for the record, that's not what this letter states.
Okay, I just wanted to go on record that that land should not be being marketed for residential, for the safety, and that's safety reasons. And you guys are put in office to protect us and protect citizens. I don't care if there's mobile homes over there. I don't care if it's high density. It's safety reasons that it shouldn't be marketed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitty.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, is there anything you'd like to, a lot of assertions made about the airport. Would you like to clarify your perspective, or would you like a copy of the packet we were presented?
So, I understand people have passions for their houses and their communities and where they live. But this is the second time this individual's got up and talked about safety, about the airport, with no knowledge of safety at an airport. The airport is safe. We have a wildlife biologist that makes sure that wildlife inhabitants that are close or near the airport are taken care of. We have a deparation permit, which allows us to kill wildlife on our property if it's a hazard. So safety is our #1 priority. This has to do with the sale of property that is required by the FAA. The lady just mentioned an email dated, I think she said April 21st. I got an email last Wednesday dated 5/5 from Susan with regards to the sale of the property. And the title of the email was public complaint. So we've had multiple people complain to the FAA, and they've been given responses, and they don't like the answers. So the FAA, Annette, I'm not gonna try to butcher her last name because I did it last time, and I apologize, contacted the hotline from the FAA. The FAA sent her a letter basically saying there is no such things as a noise buffer. It only considers it when it's within the 75 contours of the DNL, which this does not apply. Also in the letter, she asked about a Part 150 study. And in the response from the FAA, it says a Part 150 study is a voluntary program and is only recommended when there's noise that's outside the fence line, which the last master plan that was just completed in 2019 indicated there's no noise outside our fence line.
Mr. Martin, I just want to, could you please clarify that statement? Because I understand there's some snickers in the audience last time. I mean, you're not saying that there is no noise outside the fence line. Could you please clarify what you mean by no noise?
So the federal government has a noise compatibility nationwide that's the standard for all airports in the country. It's called a 65 DNL, day and night noise level. There are no noise levels greater than 65 DNL outside the fence line.
Okay.
It's in a master plan that was approved and completed in 2019.
Okay, I just want to clarify with everybody that it's not that there's no noise, that we all know there's noise from the airport. Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, talking about Snickers, the lady mentioned earlier that she didn't know the process. I didn't know the process as well. And the developer made a much better presentation than they did at the the zoning meeting, I think it's called. But there's development in Mill Creek that's gone in the last few years that's increased the number of quality housing throughout the area that has affected Mill Creek's school district. The Hammocks at Mill Creek has continued to build 1- and 2-bedroom townhome apartments, and the price point for those townhomes for 2-bedroom, 2-bath is $1,454 a month. That's without a garage. If you want a garage, it's $250. Copperleaf, Manchester style, which is just north of the mall, or south of the mall, 2-bedroom, 2-bath is $1,200 a month, plus $65 for water. Tenants pay gas, electricity, and utilities. So the price point that was talked about earlier for these apartments, townhomes, are being getting in this community. It might seem high to some people, but they are being getting in this community. People are paying that because they're looking for quality housing. To me, this is a quality housing thing. I think the developers worked hard to try to work with the residents on some of their concerns, but quite frankly, there's some residents there that don't want anything to happen there. It doesn't matter what happens. They don't want anything to happen there. So the airport stance is that we have a letter. I have the documentation from the FAA. I could share with the supervisors. From 2009, this property is supposed to be sold. There are 4 pieces of property that are supposed to be sold, and we're working to try to sell that to be in compliance with our grant assurances. And the grant assurances is what we sign off every time we take a grant from the federal government that we must adhere to. If you have any other questions, I'll answer, otherwise my time's up. Yes, sir?
Mr. Martin, I have a question. Is there a deadline for that sale?
There's no deadline for the
Okay.
sale. No,
There's no statute of limitation, so to speak, on the,
no.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Martin, I have one question. The email that Ms. Benny provided to us, it does mention something about you won't have incompatible uses that conflict with airport operations. Can you give us an example of what would be a use that would conflict with airport operations?
Well, usually hospitals, schools that are in the vicinity of an airport, that's considered incompatible, and when they're incompatible, you usually have to insulate those properties. Again, the motor homes that were on this property originally were taken away because they couldn't be insulated. And so, but again, the noise has changed over 22 years because planes have gotten quieter, new technology, and those sort of things.
Yeah, could you maybe explain a little more about that? Because that was the one issue at the Planning Commission meeting that I attended was, all right, you removed homes because of the expense or inability to insulate them from noise, and now there's this construction proposed. I just for the clarification, Jim and Dan weren't at that meeting. Can you explain that there's those regulations have changed, or you're saying that a new sound study was done, or what do we? How did you come to that determination?
So what was determined back in late 1990s is that the housing, part of that property was incompatible, part of it wasn't incompatible. So to be consistent, they just got rid of the, whatever was on the 72 acres, 74 acres of property. And part of that property was where these mobile homes were. So when we sell the property, we have assurances that the airport has to get, or it's in the legal documents when the property is for sale, and it basically says the airport, I'm just trying to pull it up, excuse me. This is the letter the last paragraph that I got, and I think this answers the question. Although there's no longer a 65 DNL contour, and residential use would now be considered compatible. This is in her letter, so I'm not sure what that one says. And should the parcel once again, something came in, I'm sorry. Once again, enter the 65 noise level change standard, the airport would be responsible. In addition, noise mitigation for the airport property was funded. The airport must require that when the land is sold, that all restrictions and requirements for noise mitigation be adhered to.
The noise contour you mentioned, is that something that's assessed regularly? Is that something that's adjusted annually? I guess that's part I'm
So
not
it depends
clear
on the size of your aircraft. So the noise that some folks might hear that might be outside is when a military aircraft comes into the community, and they do what's called touch and goes.
Work planes, fly right over your home, right over our home, come off the airport field.
So the contour that they're referring to, that they're saying these properties are no longer in, how often is that contour determined, or?
The last time it was determined, it was in 2019 when the master plan was completed.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
Thanks, we'll continue. Anyone else care to address the board today regarding this issue?
Actually relinquished her time.
We'll let you, now, a number of people stood up and said that they weren't going to speak so that Ms. Benny could talk for an extended amount of time, but please, if you could keep your...
I'll keep it brief.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My name is Annette Mossberg. I live on Wilkins Road. A couple things. I know Mr. Martin says that that property is no longer in the noise zone because it's apparently under 65 decibels. I can tell you, I live across the street from that property. I have had an app on my phone when the planes go overhead, and it clearly goes over 70 decibels, especially when the U.S. military plane goes overhead. That thing shakes your house practically. You could feel it when it goes overhead. And as a resident, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do anything with the property. It's my hope that they wouldn't, but I mean, it's been vacant for 20 years. The reason the airport bought it out was because the former owner planned on putting more mobile homes in. And they decided at that time that was incompatible. So they forced all those people out of their homes, and they basically took over that property by eminent domain, forcing the owners not to be able to increase the mobile homes in the area. That's my one point. My second point is, we don't believe it should be used for residential use. We're okay if they decide to sell it for agriculture or a solar farm. And I'm respectfully asking you today to vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, well, good afternoon now, pretty much.
Oh,
My name
it's
is
still
Chris
morning.
Eniston. I live at 1762 Westwood Drive. I know we haven't heard much for the street that's located to the east of the property. And on his picture that's now down, he really doesn't address that location at all. There is a fence, actually it's a fence that once the airport bought the property that we're talking about, it was an 8-foot fence that they made us cut down to 6 foot because of sightline for the airport or something like that. Actually, I verified that by talking to the airport authority contact that I have. So an 8-foot fence had to be cut down to 6 foot because of sightline in my backyard. And he's, according to his townhouses, they literally would bump up to my backyard. And so he really talks about how on Wilkins, we'll push everything back, but those townhouses would literally be looking over my backyard. And I understand that he wants to develop this and he's threatening, well, then a bunch of trailer parks are going in. And I understand that the airport wants to sell this, so of course he's going to be for increasing the zoning. And I do question the sound things that he's talking about, because if you live in the area, you feel the house shake. You know when a helicopter is riding low or a big plane. And at the moment, we might not be having bigger planes landing right now, especially with COVID and stuff. They've actually decreased the certain planes coming in. But what about in 2-3 years? Our hope is that the area airport grows. What, are you gonna just tear down the townhouses that you've just approved? Like they tore down the trailers that they went in and decided we don't want these trailers here anymore. So they uprooted neighborhood since I was like 3 years old. It was a coal drive. And then my family moved over to Westwood Drive, and then I just bought, and then 10, 11 years ago, my husband and I bought a house because we love the neighborhood. And so they tore those, you might say, oh, who would want to live in a trailer anyway? Well, there's families that love that area. They made those families, they kicked them out of those trailers, then they sold them out or whatever, and made them buy a house and move out of there. So what happens when the zoning changes for the airport again, possibly? I know you say, what's hearsay? But those are things you have to think when we are technically in this noise zone. You might say, it's not, it's within the fence. Well, if you haven't walked into the airport field lately, I do it almost every day, because it's right at the end of our street. The fence is just a chain link fence. I don't know what they're talking, there's no other noise buffers. There's no wall for noise buffering. I mean, I get headaches a lot. I question if it's from the noise that we hear, from the airport noise. It is there, it is very ever present. But even if you say the noise isn't relevant, even if you say, let the developer develop, and if he has to end up tearing things down, or he has to put extra panes on the windows. The wildlife, yesterday, wild turkeys walking through my backyard, deers, it roams free in these areas because it is part of the property that's there. Because when the airport took it over, when they said that this property was not compatible with residential use for the airport, it has been wetlands and wildlife refuge, and I know they say that this part doesn't need to be part of the airport anymore. I'm not arguing that part, but I do really want you guys to consider the amount. I counted, and I think it was 112 between your pretty houses that you've shown pictures of, but you were very careful not to show us the townhouse pictures that will be stacked. Is it 106 or 112 units that you're gonna put there times the amount of people? I'd like to see what that total number would be. That's a pretty high density to put into a neighborhood on what's not, it sounds like a lot of land. That's not a very big property. If you drove up the street and seen this property, I just want you guys to understand, if we're talking about what you're gonna put into this little property, you say, oh, well, there's other wetlands here. This looks like a lot. But you still are completely wiping this out. And he says, oh, I'll put a green area. Again, if you're on that property, it's not very large. This little grass area, oh, here you can play some football. I just want you guys to remember that the airport did buy that for the FAA because of noise, and now they're saying, oh, well, there's a gray area here, we can sell it. And I just want to know, maybe you guys should be having them double check and make sure that this is the right thing to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Puz, quick, I just want to clarify the concern about Westwood Drive and kind of an encroachment on that. There is a 30-yard rear setback requirement. Is it, or is it more than that when an R4 abuts an R1 development?
It is a 30-foot rear setback in the R4.
Is there also a screening requirement?
No.
Okay, I really would ask folks to please not call out in the middle of the meeting. So there's no buffer screening requirement between R4 and R1? I could have sworn that was put in the zoning code recently.
No, there is when a high-density development is adjacent to a commercial or industrial, there is a required buffer, but no required buffer for residential, abutting residential.
Okay, just the 30-foot setback.
Correct.
Okay. All right, anyone else care to address the board this morning? Yes, sir, come on up.
Pete Cabea, 4502 Grand Harbor Drive. I am really shocked. This is an exciting proposal for Mill Creek. Can we put this back up? I don't know if you're going to find another developer who is going to take care and take the time to listen to the neighbors and improve this piece of property and enhance it. This is a beautiful development. This will enhance all the values of all your properties. Your property values are going to go up because this piece is here. It's going to improve your property values. Guaranteed it's going to improve it. And this developer has taken the time to listen to what you want to do, and he's making, if you want a little bit more screening, I'm guessing, but I'm sure they're going to put it in. If you want trees behind here, I would like the supervisors to take a look at, there's two developments that have happened recently. One is by Sessler, who built some townhouses, and I talked to all of the neighbors who were opposed to that development. And I also talked to the neighbors who were opposed to Garvey Lane. Of all of those neighbors who were opposed to both developments, all of them are happy with the final product now. They are happy with the final product. And if you look, supervisors, if you look at the difference between what was on Garvey Lane and what is on here now, you can see just the quality job that these guys have done. I think this is a very positive move for Mill Creek. You don't find too many developers who will take the time to do something like this. This will improve all of your property. You're allowing you to use these other areas, they're gonna put it on paper for you. If you let somebody else develop this, do you think they're gonna allow the wetlands, the green lands? Take a look at Garvey Drive up here on 26th Street. Look at how beautiful the landscaping is. This developer has done a beautiful job developing a couple properties, and I think with the things that are set up with Milk Creek to watch water retention and the other development that we're doing, they will protect that, but you're not gonna find developers to make things as beautiful as this developer will do. Again, very important, I did talk to all the neighbors who were opposed, and all of them, not some of them, every one of them was happy with what's going on Garvey Lane, and also what Sessler's did in that area. That's kind of important. I would rather see this development in Mill Creek as opposed to Summit or Fairview, and that's where it's gonna end up going. This is a beautiful property. It's going to enhance the whole area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the supervisors this morning regarding this property?
Hi Supervisors, my name is Joseph Rogers. I live at 1916 Cole Drive. I am actually friends with Guy, and I understand what he is trying to do here. Unfortunately, I don't agree with it. One of the big problems that I have is when the FAA purchased the property, the Mill Creek supervisors at that time should have rezoned this according to what was being purchased as the property. The property should have probably been rezoned down to an R1 establishment at that time, as I can't find anything in the code books to just have an agricultural development on that property.
Can I ask you, okay, so you're saying it should have been done to,
As
we should have rezoned it to
when
residential?
the FAA purchased the property as said buffer zone, all right, it should have never been, it should have never stayed as an R3 property. It should have been put down to either an agricultural zone or an FAA, buffer zone at that time. I don't know how they could have did it or when they should have did it, but that's just my feeling of it all. Like I said, I'm personal friends with Guy. I understand what he's doing here. I just don't agree with it at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to address the board at this time regarding this rezoning request? Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay, I have a general question for the audience. Show of hands, who is at this meeting because of this rezoning request? Okay. Here's my question to you, and I've heard the comment that the mobile home is a threat, and I didn't perceive it as that. But, I mean, there is a reality here that this, as it's currently zoned, that is a development that could take place. And it seems so, and then the airport plan excerpt that was shown to us mentioned several things about agricultural, talked about solar panels. It also mentioned office space, which would be an industrial office park. And then there's this development. So I guess, the airport is going to develop this property, I would imagine. And it's a significant piece of property that ought to be developed somehow. The options, the alternatives here that seem to be viable are reconstructing a mobile home park there. This proposal, which I do have some concerns about, or an industrial office complex. So I guess, is this, I'm not exactly sure what the preference is from the community, because the option of nothing happening there is not an option, folks. It's not.
Just like to make one comment.
Sure.
The fact that it is zone R3, and technically they could put a mobile home park in, is actually not possible because it definitely, as Mr. Martin had told us, they can't soundproof mobile homes, so they cannot put mobile homes on that property.
Well, from what I'm understanding from Mr. Martin is that's not a current requirement due to the current noise contour. Is that
That's what
correct,
he told us.
Mr. Martin?
The property is no longer within the 65 feet now, so it's not a requirement. If
Okay.
the developer wanted to put mobile homes there, he would have to, in his restrictions to the tenants, outline that there is a airport adjacency and there's no noise mitigation techniques for the property.
Okay. All right. Mr. Yolano, would you mind stepping up to the podium one more time? Your other request this morning, I believe you submitted a request for tabling that request.
We're going to withdraw that request, Mr. Chairman, on the second NGE Real Estate Holdings.
You're withdrawing the rezoning request altogether?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your timetable on this particular project?
On this particular development,
Yeah.
we have a lot of hoops yet with stormwater retention. We have to be able to hold the water from the impermeable surfaces. That all has to be submitted, has to be reviewed by the Mill Creek engineers. We did a wetland study already, but it's not finalized. So we have a lot of work. The timetable, it could be 9 months to a year before we even get through this process.
My concern, Mr. Yolano, with the rezoning request is what you've presented. I'm sure this will upset some people. I don't find it unreasonable. The concerns that I heard at the Planning Commission that I thought were very legitimate concerns was preservation of open space because of wildlife and preservation of public access for recreation. Those are the two concerns that I thought were very reasonable to make from the public that I think ought to be accommodated, and the concern about putting say more significant multifamily units adjacent to single-family homes, and I do think that the duplex concept mitigates that concern as well. My concern with this is there's nothing we can do to hold you to these things once we approve rezoning today. And I guess that's what I struggle with, is that
Mr.
nothing in our
Chairman.
zoning forces this kind of a development.
Mr. Chairman, as I opened up this morning, it's hard to talk about just rezoning, and you could see where that got us with the Planning Commission, because we came up when we presented R3, and R3 sounds like it's a lower density than R4, but it's not. This concept plan is the most amount of units you're going to see on this parcel. We could have came in with a concept plan that only showed a few, because you can't hold us to this concept plan. We don't have it all figured out.
Right.
We understand that. But it's hard to talk about zoning without kind of showing somebody what you're thinking about and what you've heard from certain neighbors and what you're trying to do. So therefore, we did this. This is the absolute most you're able to do. I would venture to say there's probably 14 townhomes that will be reduced from those townhomes in the back there, because we have not done our stormwater management. We have not done certain material. We have to hold that water for 100 years. We think we did some rough calculations, but this is the absolute most that you will have as far as units. It will absolutely probably be less than this, but once again, we're not at that land development. We didn't do the stormwater. And there's many other hoops to jump through yet, to have it verified as well with the engineers at Mill Creek.
And I'm assuming you'd rather not start a land development process until you know you have the zoning in place.
Excuse me?
I'm assuming you'd rather not start the land development procedure without the zoning in place. You wouldn't want to do those concurrently.
Exactly.
You'd like to have the zoning.
Exactly.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any other questions or comments from the board?
I don't think the changes that Mr. Giuliano has presented here are unreasonable. Speaking personally, if I resided in the neighborhood, to me it's an improvement, but I'm going to set aside my personal feelings when this comes up for a vote. I think what's presented here is not unreasonable. I think it would be an enhancement to the neighborhood. But I'm a little concerned just about the timing of it with our updating our zoning ordinance and our saldo, and the fact that maybe, you know, this kind of presentation should have been done to the Planning Commission. So I'm just a little concerned with the timing of this.
Mr. Lett, anything like that?
No, I would echo Mr. Bach's comments, and I also believe that, you know, this does appear to be a sound project. I certainly hear what the residents have had to say about it, and I will take that into consideration on the vote.
Well, gentlemen, with that, the only options we have this morning are to vote yes or no, or we could move to table the decision to a later date. So
Please, Mr. Chairman, can I just speak one?
Ms. Benny, I don't mean to be rude, but we allowed about 10 minutes of time.
It won't even be 2 minutes, please.
2 minutes, Ms. Benny.
It's in regard to your question. You brought up what we foresee to be there. I want to bring up what the Mill Creek vision was.
Okay.
On that vision, it has our property as public recreation or conservation on your plan.
All right, I want to clarify that, because I wrote that plan, and I wrote those exact words on there. It's conservation development, which is for moderate density residential with the intention of preservation of open space. So that is what that means.
The property itself is highlighted in green.
Right, as a conservation district, as a conservation development district, yes.
I'm also asking the board, before you say yes to this, require the airport to give you this letter that is current and states that they have followed all the guidelines through the FAA. This is a sample letter that he should have, and he doesn't. He has one that's back to 2010. I want to know where the money's going. This property was purchased in '93, finding out that it was never purchased. $3.7 million disappeared, and then it gets marketed in 2000. I ask you, I beg you to say no to this plan. The FAA will be here, and they will need to purchase this property from him, and it's going to cost them a lot more.
Thank you, Ms. Benny. All right, is there a motion regarding this rezoning request? Or is there anything else Mr. Puz or Mr. Shaw would like to add before I call for a vote?
My only comment would be with respect to the options, just ensuring with Mr. Puz that if it's decided to table, that, you know, the time period won't run until the next meeting. Just making sure that we're okay with the time period there. I don't know if there is one that applies to zonings as opposed to developments, but just wanted to make sure it didn't inadvertently pass if there is a deadline. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Mr. Puz, anything else to add?
I have no additional comments.
Okay, so if a decision is tabled for a zoning, there's no automatic approval if we don't act on it at a certain time.
Since a rezoning's a change in ordinance, if the Board of Supervisors does not act, then there would be no change.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, is there a motion regarding this rezoning request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table this request at this time.
If we do that, we will have to, but we have to be appropriate to re-advertise when the vote will take place. Do you have a recommendation or a suggestion for how long the table is for? Till the next meeting, or 2 meetings, 3 meetings? What are you suggesting, Mr. Olet?
I would say 2 meetings, and, you know, there was a lot of information, a lot of comments here from all parties. I would certainly like the latitude to consider everybody's point and set the time frame for 2 meetings from now. I'm not sure what the date would be.
Cheryl, do you have our calendar in front of you for the meetings?
Mr. Chair, if I could, real quick, I would suggest, at least on the record, closing the hearing, and then the only issue left would be, for you to make a decision.
Okay. Before we close the hearing officially, is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay, with that, we will close the hearing. Mr. Shaw is searching for the next meeting dates.
I have our next meeting, at least on my calendar, reflected to be at 9:30 a.m. on June 8th. That would be two meetings from now.
Is that when you'd like to table it to, Mr. Olet?
Yes, please.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
I vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. So, what was that date again, Mr. Shaw?
June 8th at 9:30.
June 8th, in this room at 9:30 is when we will take up the vote on this matter. Thank you all for coming in and participating.
Yes, thank you.
I guess we still have more meetings, don't we?
Yes, we do.
All right. Gotta find my agenda. All right. Next item on the agenda is another rezoning request. I understand Mr. Giuliano is withdrawing, but we will still have a public hearing if anyone cares to comment. Property located at 1426 Powell Avenue, now zoned R1, single-family residential, asking for a property to be classified as R2 low-density residential. Mr. Puzz. Take your time.
Yes. At the regular meeting on April 6, 2021, the Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend denial of the proposed rezoning located at 1426 Powell Avenue from R1 single-family residential to R2 low-density residential.
Thank you, Mr. Giuliano. Would you care to make a statement about this request?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. At the Planning Commission meeting, we heard the neighbors, and we feel that we're going to leave that zoning the way it is. We wanted to withdraw our application. We heard them, and we're going to withdraw.
Okay, thank you. So the property owner has requested withdraw the request, but we will still have a public hearing. Does anyone from the public care to address this issue or share your comments or concerns with the board regarding this rezoning request? Okay, with that, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Shaw, I don't believe we need to act on this since is being withdrawn.
Since it's been withdrawn on the record, there's no need to take any action.
Okay, Mr. Puz, for your records, do you need Mr. Giuliano to submit a formal request to withdraw, or is his statement here on the record enough to dismiss this issue?
Yeah, since it's stated on the record, it would, I can take that as a withdrawal. Plus, like I said earlier with the other one, since there's going to be no formal action, there will be no change in zoning.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda. Our next public hearing is on the adoption of the official map of Mill Creek Township, proposed ordinance 2021-5, an ordinance of the Township of Mill Creek, Erie County, Pennsylvania, establishing and adopting an official map of the whole of the township pursuant to municipalities planning code and amending the township code to create a new chapter 124 entitled Official Map. And I just want to note for those in attendance that today is the public hearing. The supervisors will not be acting on adopting the ordinance until our May 25th meeting at 7 p.m. So we do want to hear public comments, and we'll give ourselves a few weeks to consider those before taking a final action. Mr. Puz, I believe you have a brief presentation you'd like to share with us before we open up for public comment.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Matthew Puz, the Zoning and Development Officer, address 3608 West 26th Street. I'm going to give a brief presentation about the official map, and then I'd like to move into the formal recommendation of the Planning Commission, as well as the summary of the comments we received, before we open it up for additional public comments, if that's okay. All right, so we're here today to discuss the official map. The official map, what it is a land use tool authorized by Article 4 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. It allows the municipality to do two things. One, identify existing infrastructure such as streets, roads, railroads, as well as streams, floodplains, public parks, as well as designate areas for future public acquisition. How it works. So the township, what we did was we went through the township, we looked at areas where we had existing parks that are located on the map, and we also looked at areas that may be useful for future acquisition by the township, whether that's for conservation easement to protect, in this, I'm thinking Wilkins Run because that's an impaired stream, as well as areas that have wetlands. Also, there's potential for acquisition for future parks or street extensions. So in the future, what it means by being placed on the official map, that it allows the township 1 year to negotiate, up to 1 year to negotiate with the property owner, whether it's for an acquisition for public use, if it's for an easement for protection of the environmentally sensitive areas, as well as for street extensions. What it allows, the official map allows us transparency in that the township is interested in acquiring a certain portion of land for public use, and then, so during that 1 year period we negotiate, and by we I mean the township would negotiate to better set development that's both conducive to the township's goals, as well as would be good for the property owner or the developer. So why did we start a process for the official map? That was one of the recommendations of Embrace Mill Creek. The comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2019. 18, I apologize. It's close. And the official map actually allows us to think comprehensively about future land uses as a whole, instead of piecemealing together acquisitions for public use. The public process is required by the MPC. It allows us to collaborate with residents. We did notify all property owners affected by the official map, as well as we had 3 public meetings regarding it prior to the public hearing today. And it allows both the township and the residents to plan for future improvements that will benefit all. And in our case, for most of, if not all, the acquisition is for, public use or preservation of environmentally sensitive areas. So, like I said, basically it is for focusing on preserving open space for future generations. Key features on the map, we have existing public spaces. These are places like school district property that have playgrounds, public picnic groves. These are areas that we want to see preserved for future generations. There's areas for park expansions. I believe the one park, O'Brien Park, which is actually located right here, it would make sense to expand that one, as that's a central park in that area. Waterway buffers, this includes, like I mentioned earlier, Wilkins Run, which is, that is an environmentally impaired environmentally impaired stream that we want to protect, as well as there's areas where there are large tracts of wetlands that we want to make sure that remain protected. There are areas shown on the map for the expansion or extension of existing roads, as well as areas that would allow public access for trails. So with that, thank you for your interest. There is the website if anyone's interested in looking at the website afterwards about the official map. And with that being said, I would like to move in, like I said, to the Planning Commission recommendation. At the regular meeting on May 4th, 2021, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the official map and ordinance with the following changes to the official map. 1, remove 5245 Grub Road from the official map. 2, remove 5571 Henderson Road from the official map. 3, remove 5131 Old French Road, also known as St. Nick's Grove, from the official map. And 4, remove all federal land, including any Erie Regional Airport Authority land, from the official map. The changes to the official map carried by a vote of 4-1.
So I'm sorry, Matt, so there was first a vote for recommending amendment, and then a second vote to pass that recommendation on to us? Is that what?
Correct, yeah. There was a recommendation to make the changes, which was approved 4-1, and then the actual final recommendation of the official map to the Board of Supervisors was 5-0.
Understood. Thank you.
And then, like I said, I'm going to summarize the public comments. The comment period for the official map was open for 45 days, beginning March 24th, 2021, and closing May 7th, 2021. There were 96 letters sent to affected property owners on February 8th, 2021. Approximately 60 phone calls were received by our office regarding the official map, as well as several in-person meetings scheduled during that time period from February 8th to May 7th. There were 3 public meetings held during the time frame of February 8th and May 7th. An open house meeting from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on March 11, 2021, which was the official unveiling of the official map to the public, and 2 planning commission meetings held on April 6th and May 4th, 2021. All comments received at all 3 of those meetings were followed up with written comments that were submitted to our office. So everyone who made a comment at those meetings submitted one in writing as well. Our office received a total of 20 written comments regarding 31 properties in the township. This includes 1 comment submitted by the Mill Creek Township School District for 11 properties and 1 comment submitted by the Erie Regional Airport Authority for 8 properties. The comments generally consisted with affected property owners requesting their properties be removed from the official map. 1 comment received questioned the terminology of waterways. It would be our recommendation to consider changing the term waterways as presented on the map to existing water courses to be consistent with the municipality's planning code. And I also did provide all the written copies to the board as well. The Planning Commission recommended removing 11 properties from the official map. Again, those would be 5245 Grub Road, 5571 Henderson Road, 5131 Old French Road, and all 8 properties owned by the federal government, which are the airport's properties. No comments were received All adjacent municipalities were given a copy of the official map and ordinance. No comments were received from them. The Erie County Department of Planning and Community Development reviewed and commented on the official map. Per the review letter of April 27, 2021, the proposed official map appears to be consistent with the MPC as it presents a summary of existing public uses: streets, grounds, easements, water courses, parks, and detention ponds. It includes open space reservations and acquisition procedures deemed necessary for property identified as future public use and is consistent with the Mill Creek Township Comprehensive Plan. That would be the summary of the comments.
Thank you, Mr. Puzz. Any questions or comments from the board on Mr. Puzz's report and presentation? Okay, thank you, Mr. Puzz. With that, we
Thank you.
will begin taking public comments. Similar to our last hearings earlier this morning, we'd appreciate if you could step up to the podium, give your name and address, also sign in, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Whoever would like to step up first.
Good morning. Chairman Morgan, Mr. Olet, Mr. Bach, Mr. Puzz, Secretary Williams, Mill Creek Township employees, and interested residents. I'm Richard Kerner, President of St. Nicholas Church at 1123 East Avenue in Erie, Pennsylvania. And you have received the letter, the formal response. We appreciate the transparency that all of you have given us throughout this process. We've attended all the meetings on behalf of St. Nicholas Church. So without really going into a lot of restating what's been stated before, I would just like to say that on behalf of St. Nicholas Church, the owner of St. Nick's Grove, we ask that you remove its property on Old French Road from placement on the proposed official map. And such a decision in action would be consistent with the formal vote and recommendation of the Mill Creek Township Planning Commissioners at its meeting on May 4, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the board this morning regarding the official map? Okay. Anyone else? Going twice. 3 times. All right. Well, with that, we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, I think we had advertised we'd be voting on this on May 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Puzz. Thank you, everyone in attendance. Appreciate the input. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2021 R25, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20 in the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. Moment to bring my agenda packet back up here. Gentlemen, this is a routine authorization from this board. Today's request is from the MPD. They request approval to delete dash cam videos that reach their required detention period between the dates of May 12th to May 25th. Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2021 R25?
I'll make that motion, John.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is Resolution 2021 R26, a resolution to assess the cost of street lighting upon various properties abutting streets in various subdivisions within the township of Mill Creek. Mr. Zakrzewski.
Yes, we've finally gotten the rate information we require to complete the calculation of streetlight assessments from Penelec early this week. And those are plugged into the program to calculate the various rates. There are a variety of street lights in terms of wattages, so there's different costs. All those are used in the calculation of the street light assessment, along with the distribution cost, the electricity cost. So there's a slight increase in the overall rate structure for 2021. And it's my recommendation that we approve the streetlight assessment rate request as presented.
Any questions or comments from the board?
So this is a rate set by First Energy?
Yes, they file their rates with the PUC, and they, dictate to us what those rates are, and they get plugged into a formula that takes all those factors into consideration to come with a cost per linear foot, and then you're assessed on the basis of how many linear feet of frontage you have in each lighting district.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion to approve New Creek Township street lighting rates provided by Penelec this year?
I'll make that motion, John.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the Fire Department Fuel Access Agreements, Bell Valley and Kearsarge Fire Departments. Is that Mr. Shaw or Mr. Olet covering that today?
I can
Mr.
take
Shaw.
that.
Yeah.
As you recall, I think last year, or the year before, the township had entered into agreements with various Mill Creek Fire Departments to allow them access to the fueling stations behind the township building. We subsequently got a request from Kearsarge and Bell Valley to give them access to fueling stations at the Old French Road Maintenance Building. In order to do that, we had to bring in a 1,000-gallon diesel tank, above-ground diesel tank, to accommodate that. And these are, what's presented are the agreements with each fire department that would allow them to utilize that tank. It provides for methods of how to access, how to use it, and ultimately how to pay for it. And both fire departments have executed these agreements, and I would recommend that they be signed and approved and signed. They're similar to the prior agreements that have been approved, other than logistics that have changed because they're just different locations.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
All right, well, I want to thank Mr. Olet and Mr. Shaw, all their work on this, and Mr. Snyder as well, to get these, this infrastructure in place, these agreements in place, so we can help out our volunteer fire departments. With that, is there a motion to approve the fuel access agreements with Bell Valley and Kearsarge?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the storm sewer easement agreement, 2701 Loveland Road and 3457 West 26th Street. Is it Mr. Puzz or Mr. Shaw?
I'll handle that one as well.
Mr. Shaw, how's it going?
This is an agreement between the township and Mark and Sharon Gerlach for parcels on Loveland and West 26th Street that would allow for the replacement and continuing maintenance of a culvert that crosses under Loveland. This is the last piece that we needed to proceed. If you recall, we've approved prior easements with other property owners regarding this in the recent past. It includes a temporary construction easement as well as a permanent easement, and it's recommended that this agreement be approved.
Any questions or comments from the board? Is there a motion to approve the easement agreements?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next is the 2021 Highmark Loyalty Agreement and Fee Schedule. Mr. Zikrzewski.
Yes, Highmark Insurance is our TPA, transaction processing agent for our self-funded insurance plan. as part of that, they charge us fees for things like administration. There's a variety of different rates, and there's other aspects that we've incorporated into the plan to help make sure that we're not overpaying for any sort of charges that are cleared through the through Highmark. As part of maintaining the cost on the plan, the loyalty agreement freezes the administrative fees for this year and next year and has a slight increase for the 2023 plan year. The other agreements are dealing with fees with respect to the various types of plans that we have. We've got, because when you retire, and those that have health insurance, you retire under the plan that, in effect, when you retired. So there's about 5 different plans for the police officers. Those were all listed out. There is no health insurance for AFSCME employees that retire at 65. So some of this will be condensed down as we go forward, but for right now, we've got 5 different plans that we have to deal with. And so Highmark had always been charging these fees, but they were a little less transparent as to what they were and how much they were. And they have now decided to spell them all out, and there's a variety of agreements that need to be signed and or initialed for those to be officially adopted. And so I'm recommending that the board approve the agreements and that the chairman of the board of supervisors be authorized to sign the various agreements and exhibits as needed.
Mr. Chairman, I would also add that we did review these, and there were some changes that we had recommended that Highmark agreed to relating to confidentiality provisions that they had in there that we couldn't agree to, and as well as them acknowledging the right to know law applicability. They also had, this was a hangover from prior agreements, references to pharmacy, but that's being handled in a different manner at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Excuse me. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 Highmark loyalty agreement and fee schedules?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is communications, Treasurer Communications, Mr. Jakuszewski,
Yes.
the MRM Trust Proxy.
MRM is the insurance trust group that handles our workers' comp insurance because it's a mutual benefit type of arrangement. We have a say in electing the board of directors for the MRM trust, and so I'm asking that the board approve designating MRM trust, and I believe it's the secretary of the trust, as our proxy for voting at their annual meeting, which is, I think it's in June. It's coming up soon. I think there's 3 directors up for election.
Is there any questions or comments on the proxy? Is there a motion to approve the proxy?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
Vote yes.
And I vote yes.
And then one other thing, just very briefly.
Nope, can't.
The auditor from the Attorney General, or Auditor General's office, has completed his field work of the liquid fuels review for 2019 and 2020 and found no exceptions.
That's good, right?
That's good.
Oh, good. Good job.
Good news.
All
Good
right.
news.
Next, just to inform the public, the board did hold executive sessions on April 29th and May 6th to discuss various legal and personnel-related issues. Solicitor Communications, Mr. Shaw, anything for us today?
Yes, I do. A late edition, and I apologize for it coming in late, but we need to have the board approve a license agreement between the township and Prism Glass Recycling to allow them to participate in a recycling event that the township is sponsoring at the Mill Fair recycling location. And so before you is that agreement. It, again, provides various protections to the township, ensuring when a third party comes on to the township property to engage in activities. So we would recommend that this license agreement be executed. The Prism has signed the agreement as of this morning. So before you is the unsigned one. We'll bring the signed one to you for execution if you approve it.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No, sir.
No. Is there a motion to approve the licensing agreement?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, this was not on our agenda. Would anyone care to address the board regarding this license agreement? No? Okay. All right, Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
How about yes?
And I vote yes. Any other business, gentlemen?
No, not on this end.
Okay, I have one item. Yesterday, Senator Toomey's office provided us via email the interim final rule guidance on the American Recovery Plan dollars that Mill Creek Township will be receiving. Because as you're aware, preliminarily we're estimated to receive about $6.5 million in aid from that stimulus package. Those funds are to be distributed to the municipalities directly in June. Part of the guidance, one item that is eligible, give me a moment to find my highlighted notes here, is to address the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. Two items of import in that subsection are supporting small businesses and speeding the recovery of tourism, travel, and the hospitality sectors. To achieve these goals, recipients may employ this funding to execute a broad array of loan, grant, or in-kind assistance to help small businesses rebound from the downturn. As you gentlemen recall, earlier this year, we established a COVID relief fund for small businesses in Mill Creek Township. At that time, we were utilizing local municipal dollars, so we established that as a loan program, not a grant program. We had several applications in partnership with the Erie Redevelopment Authority. 9 applicants were successful to receive a total of $192,800 in loans. The repayment of that does not, let's see, the first payment for those loans is not due until September 1st of 2021. But gentlemen, I would suggest that with this guidance, I think it'd be prudent of us to essentially convert those loans into grants and notify the Erie Redevelopment Authority that we will be utilizing this funding source to repay those loans on behalf of the small businesses, to essentially turn those loans into a grant program, which I think is the appropriate thing to do as we're receiving these new federal dollars to help small businesses. I know we want to help the best we can, and I think with this additional fund, we can actually help more by converting those into grants. So any thoughts or comments from the board?
Yeah, in light of the federal dollars that have been allocated, I'm in favor of that as well.
I am also. This certainly falls within those guidelines, and I think that's a worthwhile move on the township's part here.
Well, the suggestion came from Mr. Krzyzewski in that these businesses have already been vetted. It's already been determined that there was a genuine need for these funds. So perhaps we want to create an expanded program once the funds are in hand. But I think at this point, what I'd like to do is make a motion to notify the Redevelopment Authority, to notify the loan recipients that their loans have been converted to grants for all intents and purposes, and that the township will pay off those loans utilizing $192,800 of the American Recovery Plan dollars when we receive them in June.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding this matter from the public?
Just one thing, we should make sure that the Redevelopment Authority retains their application materials so that we can document to the federal government as need be that the funds were, properly vetted and whatnot.
Makes sense. All right. Mr. Bach?
Vote yes.
Mr. Olet?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, if there's no other business, gentlemen, or Ms. Williams, next is citizens to be heard. Would anyone care to address the board this morning? Please step up if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record.
My name is Kathy Umpleby. I live with my husband Bob at 2916 Broadlawn Drive. And I'm so happy to be a retired board secretary of 29 years, because sitting through meetings like this is something else. But I want for you to know that you've had quite a crowd here, and my husband and I are no less passionate about what our singular problem is that they are. I have a copy of this document for all of you. As well, I'd like it put into the record also, please. On April 13th, 2021, I spoke to this board regarding a building line variance for the front of our property. The letter was submitted to each of you and is on file with the board secretary. I would like to remind this board that we have been dealing with this issue since November 2020. It's now 6 months. On April 30th, 2021, we were granted a meeting with the solicitor, the assistant solicitor, and director of planning and development. Since you were unable or unwilling to attend the meeting, I would like to bring you up to speed. The solicitor indicated that the only way we would be able to add a covered front porch to our property is if we contacted approximately 56 homeowners in our subdivision and asked them to sign a letter in the presence of a notary indicating that they agree with lifting the front yard building line on all properties in the subdivision. We would need to secure 100% of the 56 homeowners' signatures. This mandate is unrealistic. Why would anyone put themselves out to go to the township building to sign such a mandate for people they don't even know? Additionally, we are aware of at least 2 homeowners who are homebound and unable to go to the township to have their signatures notarized. In these cases, we need to employ a notary to go to their homes with us. Our immediate neighbors are not in any way opposed to this. With there being many blighted and unkept properties in Mill Creek Township, we are surprised by your thus far reluctance to not only help us make our home better, but also our entire neighborhood. The township's planning and development webpage states, and I quote, "Increase community livability and quality of life, encourage development, and strengthen community dialogue." This is exactly what we're attempting to do. We would like to present another scenario. What if we sent a registered return receipt letter to each homeowner explaining that we want to extend our front yard building line 6 feet to build a covered porch? We would indicate in our letter that this has no bearing on their property. If they were opposed, they could send a registered letter or appear at an already scheduled Township Supervisors Meeting to voice their opposition. Then, if no one sends a letter or appears before the board, and we had signed receipts from all homeowners, would we then be able to build a porch? If this is not agreeable to the solicitor and supervisors, we will put our plans on hold for 1 year from now and would expect that in the coming year, the supervisors would commit to finding a way to amend this building line situation that would allow for law-abiding citizens like us to build and make our neighborhoods more appealing. Mr. Morgan, we know you are up for re-election this year. Perhaps this is a good item for your platform, for us and for others. As mentioned at the last meeting, we believe other homeowners have violated the ordinance without repercussions. The appearance is that you care about the ordinance when a law-abiding homeowner is trying to do things the right way, but not so much when someone violates it without asking. The perceived message to the property owners is that if the board does not know about it before it's done, then it's okay. You have given us several reasons why you cannot approve the addition of a front porch to our home. Our hope is that you can find just one reason why you can. We are hopeful to come to agreement on this issue and respectfully request positive action on our request as soon as possible.
Ms. Umpleby, I think we appreciate what you're expressing to us. I need to clarify, though, that that's what was the meeting we arranged for you. And, I mean, the reason that I didn't attend is I'm not the attorney who can explain what the procedure is, and I arranged for the relevant staff to meet with you. It's not our mandate. We are not making a mandate. What was outlined to you is the legal process through land use laws in Erie County of what needs to be done to amend that document. It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with a recorded document that's legally binding that, and if I believe, Mr. Shaw can correct me, that he outlined the process. It's not a governmental process. It's a personal, it's personal property. It's a civil agreement that needs to be resolved before any development can be made. And Mr. Shaw, if I'm misquoting or misunderstanding, if you want to clarify, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, the problem is, as we explained at the meeting, and I understand, and you know, I feel for you, but you know, the challenge that you face is that there's a recorded document that has a building line on it. We verified with the county records group that, you know, what the meaning of that is. I mean, it was from our perspective, it means you have to comply with the building line. And the township cannot change that because that's a document that was filed when the subdivision was originally approved, and that's what exists. And the methodology that we gave you is the process you have to use for your subdivision to change that line. Now,
And I'll add that I believe Mr. Shaw communicated to you that what we're willing to do is offer free notary service here at the township, which we don't have to do. We offered that as a courtesy of trying to help you out by offering Ms. Williams services as a notary rather than requiring you to pay a private notary for each signature. That was communicated?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And so, you know, the problem is that, you know, given the nature of how your subdivision was created and recorded, you need everybody to agree to it in the manner that the county would accept to change that drawing and that map and to lift that building line restriction. Unfortunately, that means getting notaries of every signature. That's not something we create and we dictate. That's just the way you have to do it in order to have a proper document recorded at the courthouse.
And that's the research that we authorized Mr. Shaw to do on your behalf to explain this process to you, so you wouldn't have to get your own attorney involved to go talk to them and figure it out. That's why we've provided Ms. Williams services as a notary. I mean, I think this board has done everything that we can to investigate this, to provide you with some guidance on what your options are, and try to assist you and save you legal fees and notary fees to accomplish it. So we are trying.
I understand what you're telling me, but over the weekend, I visited many areas in our township. I can't tell you how many properties are in violation of your 30-foot residential zoning area. There are tons of them. There are tons of them. And I cannot believe that a law-abiding citizen that's trying to do it right, that we are being punished. It is discrimination, that you're not going after those people.
If you'd like to provide us addresses, we'll certainly investigate them.
Well, I'm not giving you their addresses. That would be a terrible thing. Just take a ride. You'll find them. You will find them. They're everywhere. Why don't you, if you took a ride down Oregon, there are probably 8 houses on Oregon alone that are not in compliance. There's people in my area around the corner from us that aren't in compliance.
Well, I mean, to determine that, we'd have to dig up when they were built. We'd have to look at the land development plan to see if there actually is.
Exactly, but everybody has a 30-foot, every residential area. I've read your zoning area.
It does currently, but
all of them are
we
at least
don't.
30 feet in the front.
Ms. Umpleby, I'm not I don't want to argue with you or.
No, I'm sure you don't, and I don't want to argue either. But I just want for you to know, I have not given this up. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make it right. And I'm going to have a front porch. And I'm not sure how that's going to occur, but it's going to occur. And I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to address the board this afternoon? Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lumley. All right,
Thank you.
hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn at 12:05?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sure, second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.